Oh, it's time to talk some basketball. It's time to talk fast break bets. Erik, buddy, we have a really fun couple months ahead of us. The NBA playoffs are unlike any other playoffs. I mean, we have 2 months starting
Yeah.
today, 2 full months. The NBA finals start on June the 1st. So these playoffs, 7-game series, they are long. But first, we've got a week of playing games that start today, teams playing their way in. I am Gino I'm sitting alongside my good friend Erik from ETOF 21 Sports. If you're watching this, a lot of you have probably seen me and Erik covering basketball, covering football, covering different sports through the years. And we're going to take a look at the lines over at DRF Sportsbook as we will dive in and talk all about the lines, give you some game analysis. We'll talk some props. And then at the end of each of these shows, we'll build a Thrive fantasy lineup. So we have a couple new partners here, Erik, that we'll be discussing with all the folks out there. But mainly, you and I are just going to be talking NBA every time there's NBA games in the playoffs.
Yeah, great time. Hopefully got some meaningful basketball. Actually, I'm hoping we're going to see some defensive effort. And
Yeah.
looking forward to this. We got two very intriguing matchups today. I'm really interested to see what Hawks and Heat teams show up and how the fighting Timberwolves, if you will, how they're going to be against your Lakers.
So we'll have 10 weeks of NBA playoff basketball. Yeah, and some teams could start this week and have 2 full months of games. Now, keep in mind, those of you who are watching this, if you don't remember how the play-in system works, the top 6 teams in each conference, they're already locked in. They don't play all week long. Those teams don't start their playoff seasons till Saturday or Sunday. So for this week, what we'll have today, we'll have the first game, the number 7 ranked Miami Heat against the number 8 Atlanta Hawks. Whoever wins that game, they're in. They go in as the 7 seed and they get a series against the number 2 seeded Boston Celtics. Then on the Western Conference side, you'll have the Lakers and the T-Wolves. Whoever wins that game, they become the number 7 seed. They'll go in and they'll play a series against Memphis that will start on Sunday. What ends up happening from the games today, the teams that lose, they drop down. They still get one more chance to play their way in, and they will play the teams that win tomorrow's games. Sounds a little more confusing than it is. Losers from today play the winners of tomorrow, and we'll have those teams as the number 8 seed. So
Yep.
it was really competitive and really contentious towards the end of the year, Erik, and I think this is what the NBA wanted when they created the play-in. I was watching the standings the last 2 weeks, seeing who's winning, who's losing. And in normal seasons, the last couple of weeks of the NBA season is like a slog. You have a lot of teams tanking. This really did eliminate a lot of the tanking, even though we did still see some of it.
Yeah, I mean, tanking, namely from the Mavericks, that's a whole different
Yeah.
story. But we did see some kind of competitive things. There was some interesting stuff. Like, I was a little surprised the Clippers elected to win that game
Right?
against the Suns, because if they would have lost that, they would have dropped down.
Yep.
I mean, that was an interesting thing. A lot more competitive teams. Your Lakers kind of got hot. Heat started playing a little better offensive basketball. The bottom tier, I don't even know if that's the correct term. Those teams were very competitive. But still, I feel like in the East, it's a 2-horse race, and one of those two teams, Milwaukee or Boston, are going to come out of it. The West, a little bit more open. Denver's got those injuries that are a concern. Can Durant, Paul, Booker, can those guys stay healthy?
Same thing for any of these teams, right? Who can stay healthy, or who do you trust to get through these 2 months, right? It's not like the NFL where you get 3 or 4 games that you have to make it through. This is a real battle of attrition. You're going to have to be there. And I will say, this is the most fun I have betting as a gambler, the NBA playoffs. I love the format of it, especially the series, when the series come, because I just love the countering, the adjustments that are made from one game to the next. There's always a couple days in between each game. So you play someone and then you don't play them the next day. You've got that whole next day to sit and to stew. And if you had a bad game, a lot of times you bounce back with an awesome game. Then sometimes it's just a bad matchup for you. You just can't get off against a certain team. We see great coaches adjust and then have to readjust. I'm excited, Erik. We've got a lot of NBA playoff basketball to discuss. let's dive right in as we take a look at our friends over at DRF Sports and DRF Sportsbook. If you're in Iowa, you can fire away there. So, Erik, game one today, we've got Atlanta, we've got Miami, and we are seeing right now that Miami is a 4.5-ish point favorite in here. The over-under is around 228. This line has been dancing around 5 or so. On the Miami side, they are the lowest scoring team in the league, and a lot of it has to do with Kyle Lowry. He's only played 55 games this year, only 11 points per game, 5 assists and 4 rebounds, and just 31 minutes per game. He only shot 40% from the field this year. This is not the guy they thought they were bringing in when they signed him to a huge deal, and he's been hurt, and he has a lot of mileage on him, but he just doesn't have the same at talent level at this point in his career. They've actually benched him recently. He's coming off the bench. It's not as if he's not playing, but he is coming off the bench with Kevin Love. He's been moved out of the starting lineup. His final 23 games, he's only played 25 minutes, and it's only 7.6 points per game. He only shot 32% from 3. This was an Eastern Conference Finals team last year. Some of their strengths this year, the last 26 games for Hero. So while Lowry has struggled, Hero has averaged over 20 points per game, 39% from 3 on 8.1 attempts per game. And when you talk about this team, you have to mention Jimmy Butler. He has been really phenomenal this year and in the playoffs. So the last 3 years in the playoffs, he took Miami to the Eastern Conference Finals twice. They had one loss in the finals, and he's averaged 38 minutes per game, 23.6 points, 6.9 rebounds, 5.5 assists, almost 2 steals, and he shot 84% from the free throw line on 8.2 free throw attempts per game. This stat, Erik, I know you love to play this game. This stat will make you go crazy. You won't believe it. Jimmy Butler is one of only 2 players in NBA history who has 100 playoff games, and he has raised his average in points, assists, and rebounds in the playoffs. Would you take a guess on the other guy who's done that? I will give you
Giannis.
It's someone that nobody would believe because of the way he gets talked about. Paul George.
Oh, wow.
How about that one? Paul George. I would have never in a million years guessed that. So now they've got the veterans, Lowry and Love, coming off the bench. But Erik, as I throw it over to you, the one thing with these two teams, it's just not a good matchup for Atlanta. Whether or not you like to play them or you think this number is accurate, over the last 2 years, Atlanta is 10-3, or Miami is 10-3 against Atlanta. They're 6-1 in Miami. The only time Atlanta won in Miami was a game that Jimmy Butler didn't play. Miami beat Atlanta 4-1 in the playoff series last year, and they beat them 3 out of 4 times this year. Can Atlanta find something that works for them in this matchup, Erik?
So I'm looking at it like this. Miami, they're the second worst team against the spread at home this season. Flip side, Atlanta on the road is 18-25-1 ATS. Hawks up all the talent in the world, but defensively, it's awful. Over the last 15 games of the season to close out when they're battling for a play-in, they allowed teams to shoot 38% from 3 and 51% from the floor, and allowing a 119.1 defensive rating. Flip side, let's look at the Heat. Heat closed the year. I know they're 30th in total offense, but you look at their last couple games, they ended the season shooting 38% from 3 and averaged 121.4 points per game. Are we going to see that Heat team, or are we going to see the Heat team that fluttered all year?
And that was last in the league in scoring because, like you said, they made those adjustments. One of those adjustments was going to be a play that I have today, and we'll mention in a minute. They put Strus into the starting lineup, back into the starting lineup, and he helps them stretch the floor a little bit more. Also, the last 5 games of the year, he started again. He shot 47% from 3 on
the Strus.
On
Strus
6
is loose.
Yeah, on he was averaging 3.8 3-pointers made in the final 4 games that he played. I didn't count the last game because he only played a few minutes. He had 6, 2, 4, and 3 3-pointers made. I think his total, Erik, is 11.5 for points, and that'll be one of my plays today. But keep going. Talk to us a little bit more about how you see this game overall.
The numbers I look at tell me to play the Hawks plus the number, but there's zero chance I'm going to do that. I would never trust Trae Young. One of the angles I do have though in these playing games, and it was 4-0 last year, it's just to play the first half under, because when the playoffs start, the totals are a little inflated because scoring's always up during the regular season. During these elimination games, you're going to see a better concentrated effort on defense. You're going to take control of the ball. This isn't like a Monday in Orlando where they're just trying to get through the motion. So because of that, I am going to play the under. It's on DRF of 117 for the first half. Also, the way the Heat play defense, the Heat kind of like force you to beat them by shooting threes. Even though the Hawks have Trae Young, DeJounte Murray, Cedric Bay, and Hunter, they really don't take a lot of three-pointers. Bam has kind of struggled a little bit against Capella when you look at the history of his career. So I'm gonna take the under 117 for the first half as my first play. That's on the DRF Sports.
So there's Erik's first play. We have it posted up here for you. Heat Hawks first half under. That is up there at 117. Erik, I was mentioning my first play in this game already. I'm going Max Strus over 11.5 points. He started 10 games earlier in the year, and during those 10 games, he averaged 16.6 points per game, 36.2 minutes per game, 13.6 field goal attempts, 9 3-point attempts, and he shot 36% from three. This guy is a marksman. I mentioned his last 5 games. And so him being, if you just think about the way you're going to defend Miami, but Murray is going to be on Butler, right? He's going to try to slow down Butler. And then the other wings will probably have some focus on Hero, I'd imagine, right? You're probably going to play, you don't want Hero to go off. I could see Strus being the guy that gets cheated off of a little bit, right? You got to leave somebody open. You're not going to be able to double Hero and Butler and then give Strus the right kind of attention he needs out there. So, Erik, I think 11.5 is a low number. I think if they get into the playoffs and he plays, he starts 3 or 4 games, I wouldn't be shocked if that number is up a couple points in a week or two.
Yeah, because you get the adjustment. A lot of people probably didn't realize that he has been starting. Number is going to be a little low. So I absolutely love that play. It wouldn't surprise me if they put Young on him. I mean, if they put Young on
that's
him,
when, because you got to hide him somewhere, right?
Yeah, they're going to be able to post up Young a little bit. And Young is a very big liability defensively. So if they put Young on Strus, I mean, I absolutely love him. Maybe even look to get a little over 15 or over 20 as an adjusted.
Yep. And you were talking about Young, he just hasn't taken the step forward. This is an Eastern Conference Finals team 2 years ago, and now back-to-back years they've been a play-in team. Trae Young only shot 33% from 3 this year, and what I don't like, Erik, in reading some of the articles and previews for this, he's been really stubborn about the way he gets his shots. He is the best 3-point catch-and-shoot shooter in the league. He shoots 40.3% on catch-and-shoot threes in his career, but keep this in mind. Of the 52 players that make over 40%, he's the only one that shoots under 1.5 attempt per game. He won't come off the ball at all. And I was watching videos and I was reading an article from The Ringer. When he was at Oklahoma, he came off the ball all the time. And early in his career, he played off the ball a lot. That was one of the reasons why they brought Murray in, to get Young off the ball a little bit and to get the ball out of his hands a little bit. It's so much easier for him to just be catching and shooting than necessarily having to initiate the 3 or shoot the 3 off the dribble. And then the problem with him is, if he's not incredible offensively, what you're going to get defensively. Not much. Every year that he's been on their team, they've been in the bottom half of the league in defensive rating. This year, they're 22nd. In the last 15 games, they're 25th. And go ahead.
No, this is like, I'm flashing back to the conversation we had on your your podcast where they played the Heat in the first round, and we were talking about how they need to move Young off the ball more, have him do a little catch and shoot, and that's exactly what they're hoping with Murray. But for whatever reason, Young just is refusing to do it. So I don't know.
And that bothers me when I see players that refuse to do stuff like that. I wonder if they care more about their stats, their numbers, than winning.
I think that's kind of where we're at with Trae Young, unfortunately. Also, I think another thing that helps him is they changed the rule where you could dribble, stop in front of a player. He's not.
You're right. That hurt him and Chris Paul, Harden a little bit.
So I think that hurts him a little bit. But look, at the end of the day, this team, they've made some questionable personnel decisions. I don't understand why you have Kevin Huerter, who's younger than Bogdanovic, but yet you let Huerter go and you re-sign Bogey, who's older and has an injury history.
And look how great Huerter's been for Sacramento,
so,
right?
There's just like a couple questionable moves they've kind of made. I think they do have a little diamond in the rough with Hunter. They got Capella. They brought in Bay. There's definitely pieces there, but if this is a thing where they lose and they don't get into the actual playoffs, I could easily see them
blowing
not
stuff
really
up.
Blowing up, but moving up.
Yes, because they got a new GM, a new front office, the new coach, Quinn Snyder. And what worries me about him a little bit is just think about, I think he's a good coach. I do, but I can't help but remember some of the bad playoff moments that Utah has had over the last couple of years. Think about the last 3 years for Utah when he was coaching Utah. They were up 3-1 against Denver in the bubble, and they spit that series out. Then 2 years ago, it was tied 2-2, and Kawhi got hurt. And then they lost the last 2 games of the series to the Clippers without Kawhi. And then they lost the first round series last year without Luka to the Mavs.
He's been very underwhelming, but I think from what I've heard is the GM was like, look, you're going to listen to him. You're going to do this enough more. This is the second coach. He ran out of town. We're going to do it his way. So I don't know. I have one more play in this game. I took Jimmy Buckets, playoff Jimmy, if you will. I took him just to have 1 3-pointer over half a 3-pointer. He's gone over this total in 2 out of 3 games against the Hawks this season. Plus, if you just look at Butler throughout his years, his 3-point attempts increase from the regular season to the playoffs. So I just need Butler to hit 1 3. So I played him at over half a 3.
I'll be going back to one of your old boys. I'm going back to Saddiq Bey from the Pistons. Since coming to Atlanta, he is shooting 40% from 3 on 5 attempts per game. And in the 24 games before the final game of the year, he's made at least 2 3-pointers 15 out of 24 times. So this is actually plus money. This was plus 115 Bey at over 1.5 threes. And I think he's the type of guy that I could see his minutes getting ramped up a little bit because they need some wing defense and they need like a better defender out there, which is what he can do. So in a tough game like this, he might actually be pretty good out there on the court and get some extra minutes. So Saddiq Bey for me, Erik, as we move from game 1 to game 2 today, we've got the Lakers and the T-Wolves. And what we found out about this game is that the Timberwolves are now going to be like really decimated by a lot of injury issues and suspensions. So for Minnesota, on the Minnesota side, Rudy Gobert punched Kyle Anderson in a team huddle during the game. He threw a punch at him. Taurean Prince had to come back, kind of push him away. This all happened in the middle of a game. They needed to win. They were down 12. Gobert leaves. We have McDaniels punches the wall and fractures his hand. And all of a sudden, they come all the way back and they win that game. So now Minnesota has put themselves in a good situation. The number keeps creeping. I'm not going to tell you to lay this number with the Lakers. I will say from a just who wins this game standpoint, this is a great matchup now for the Lakers because Minnesota doesn't have Naz Reid, their backup center. Minnesota doesn't have Rudy Gobert, their starting center. Minnesota doesn't have McDaniels, who's their best defender. So from size, they've got Towns, who's not a great defender, who's not in shape, who wants to park out by the three, and he gets into foul trouble a lot. I could very easily see Towns picking up 2 or 3 quick fouls and them just struggling, having to play Kyle Anderson at center. Like this feels like it has to be a dominant AD game. And when these two teams played each other a few weeks ago, Erik, it was a massive game. And the Lakers were down in that game, and it looked like Anthony Davis hurt his ankle. It looked like he twisted his ankle. He pulled the LeBron move where he pulled his laces up real tight, tied that shoe, went right back out there. He scored 17 points in the fourth quarter. Anthony Davis finished with 38 points. That's the reason why this game is in LA and not in Minnesota, because of that one game. And the Lakers started their season 2-10, but they finished the season 9-2 in their last 11 games, almost an identical flip for this Lakers team. This Lakers team was 16-7 since the All-Star break, second best record in the league, only behind the Milwaukee Bucks. 13 of those games without LeBron, 9 of them without D'Angelo, and they've got a top 5 defensive ratings from the All-Star break. So it's sort of difficult, Erik, when you're looking at the Lakers to use like season-wide metrics, because this is just a totally different team now than it was before the All-Star break.
I look at this game like this. If this was a different team, losing Bear wouldn't be that big a deal. But because the Lakers really shoot threes, they do a lot of attacking of the rim, not having that rim protector there in Gobert, that's going to be huge for them. Obviously, not having McDaniels, who's their best wing defender, is going to be an issue. But on the flip end, I think offensively, I think it kind of helps them because you're going to have more spacing,
wide open.
You're going to be able to shoot the threes. And when I was looking at this, the Lakers allow the 9th most 3-pointer attempts per game.
It's a Darvin Ham thing, right? So they want you to funnel you because they know they got the big man down low. They want Anthony Davis anchors their defense. They'll let you shoot some threes and they'll back off you a little bit.
Mm-hmm. So I look at this, Lakers are doing a good job, fast break offense, half-court defense, 9th best half-court defense in the league, but they're 28th defending the fast break. Maybe the Wolves can get out and run a little bit. But, my thing is that if this gets to 9 or higher, I kind of feel you need to take the Timberwolves just because the Timberwolves are going to shoot some threes. If they're constantly shooting threes and Lakers are shooting twos, just by math, it's going to be hard for them to cover a number that's higher than 8.5. So if this gets to 9.5, I'll be looking to get into the Timberwolves. But, my first play, on DRF right now, it's sitting at 119. I played the first half under. Also, we factored in the Lakers defense, how it's elite. I definitely like that. And we just kind of look them at the season. First half unders for the Lakers hit at 59%. For the Wolves, they hit at 56%. I think this game is going to be a little grimy, a little defensively. And who knows, maybe the Wolves try to slow it down a little bit, not allow the Lakers to get out in transition. I like the Wolves coach. I think he's going to have some sort of game plan kind of cooked up to kind of see, to kind of limit the Lakers. And, we'll see. And who knows, the Lakers, if AD goes down or if Vanderbilt goes down, Reeves has been playing great. They've been playing well with the new additions, but
it's
don't
one game, right? That's the thing. It's one game and anything can happen. And I'm nervous now as a Laker fan in that all of a sudden the narrative is quickly shifted to man, the Lakers kind of got a shot right now, huh? And I don't like that. I don't like the fact that everybody's talking about it.
I will say this. If you like the Lakers futures, you should lock them in now.
Now, because it's better.
Because, yeah.
They're an 8-point favorite in a game, and you're getting better value just off of that point alone, right? A game they're supposed to win, you're going to get more value because of that. I mentioned one of my plays a minute ago. I think this just has to be AD with the way that the game script is. It has to be AD early, try to get Cat in foul trouble. Anthony Davis, just been incredible as of late. His last 31 games, 25 points per game, 53% from the field. He's shooting 7.8 free throw attempts, 12.9 rebounds, 2.5 assists, 2 blocks. He has just been incredible. So I'm going AD on the points. Erik, you started mentioning the perimeter defense of the Lakers. Talk to us about your other play in this game and why you're going to the old man. I actually have a play on him too.
I did Mike Conley over 2.5 threes. This is on DRF at a great number of plus 135. He's gone over this 2 out of the 3 games versus the Lakers. He's gone over it 3 out of his last 5. Also, the Lakers are allowing 3.08 threes per game to opposing point guards. And you just look at it, I mentioned how the Lakers allow a lot of 3-pointers, the 9th most. Conley in the league is top 20 in non-corner 3-pointers made. So I think he's going to get some open looks, and I'm banking on him making it. So I'll take the over 2.5 at a plus 135.
And if you just think about the way this game is going to shape up, right? It's got to be a big Conley game. It's got to be a big Edwards game. It's got to be a big Towns game. Like Minnesota can win this game, but they just need their best players to play really well. They have talent there. They absolutely do. Last 18 games for Conley, he's averaging 16 points per game, 4.7 assists. He's shooting 43% from 3 on 6 attempts, as you were just referencing, and he's averaging 31.5 minutes. But we know he's going to have to play 40 minutes here, and he's going to have to be the guy that really, really gets things set up for everyone. So I think Conley over the 20.5. And I have one more play in this game, Erik, before we each give out a Thrive Fantasy play or two. My final play, playing against his old squad, thinking about how these two teams shape up, I'm going Vando over the 5.5 rebounds. Just looking at Towns is going to have to defend LeBron, or Towns is going to have to defend AD. They're probably going to have to put Kyle Anderson or Prince on LeBron. It's one of those two guys, because just 2 weeks ago, they had Gobert defending AD and they had McDaniels defending LeBron. And you don't have either of those two guys now. So who's going to put a body on Vanderbilt? Like, who's boxing him out? I don't know if it's going to hurt. He's not going to score 25 points, but he can go get you 15 rebounds if nobody's on him. And so I think this is a low rebounding number. Now I'm going Vanderbilt over the 5.5 rebounds. So no real full game plays for either me and Erik yet on this first play-in day, but we do have lots of props for you. And speaking of props, Erik, I'm going to pull up one of the other partners that we're going to be doing some work with, Thrive Fantasy. And Thrive Fantasy are basically fantasy contests. If you're someone who plays fantasy or DFS or who bets props, you will love these contests. I'm going to put up a full instructional video that we can reference. So anyone that's looking at this right now that isn't sure how to play Thrive Fantasy, I will explain it all to you more in a video so you can see that. But Erik, I'm going to pull up the website right now. Tell us, for anyone who's playing in today's Thrive Fantasy big contest, what are some of the props that you are looking at playing?
I got 2 that I absolutely love. The first one, I'm going Trae Young under 24.5 points. He only went over this total once in the playoffs last year versus the Heat. And then if you're looking at this year, he's only gone over it once, and he's averaging 19.8 points a game versus the Heat. Also, since the All-Star break and since Snyder has took over, he's shooting less threes, he's scoring less, and he's attempting less shots. So I'm taking Trae Young under 24.5. I really think the Heat are going to make an effort to take him out of the game. And the other one that I really like is I did Towns over 27.5 points / rebounds. He's gone over this total every game versus the Lakers this season. For the year, he's averaging 22 points and 8 rebounds a game versus the Lakers. That puts him obviously over the 27.5. No Gobert is going to open up rebounding opportunity for him. The Lakers give up, as I said, the 9th most threes per game. Towns is top 15 in the league in non-corner threes. So he could get hot from threes. He could easily go over this total on points alone. So those are the 2 that I really like.
Okay, Erik, I mentioned the Vanderbilt over rebounds. Well, you can find Vanderbilt on here, 5.5. That's one of mine right there. I can go over on that one. Another one, Anthony Davis, points, rebounds, assist. They've got it listed at 40.5, 40.5. If you look at some websites right now, that number is actually all the way up to 44. So if you're just playing the line, I think you have to go over on that Anthony Davis total. And then my other total, my other one, Erik, going over, Jimmy Butler, 8.5 rebounds and assists. 13.5 is the current number. He's averaged 5.6 rebounds, 5.9 assists over his last 17 games. I think he's going to go way over that 8.5 total rebounds and assists. For more information on Thrive Fantasy, come follow me. It's me, Gino B, on Twitter. I'll have an instructional video showing you how to enter the contest. Erik and I will be here with you each and every day. There are NBA games. We'll be back tomorrow, 5 o'clock p.m. Eastern time, Saturday, Sunday, noon Eastern time. For all your wagers, head to DRF Sportsbook. When you want to play some fantasy, head to Thrive Fantasy. And when you use that promo code GINO, you will get major perks. We'll talk more basketball with all of you tomorrow. Thanks so much for hanging out with us on Fast Break Bet.